Hey everybody, I wanted to welcome you to another episode of Parenting Upstream. My name is Jerry Blackburn and I'm a community educator and consultant here in Issaquah around just the broad range of behavioral health and emotional successes for young people. I've been in the field for about 25 years doing a bunch of stuff like that. I also am an adjunct faculty member in the clinical mental health counseling program at Seattle U, and this is our third episode of Parenting Upstream. I'm here with my friend and colleague, Marcelle. I'll let her introduce herself.
All right, so my name is Marcelle Waldman, and I am a K-5 certified teacher. I've taught some of our youngest kiddos in preschool and kindergarten. Yay! And I'm a mom of two. I have a tween and I've got an 11 and 9-year-old. And I have just almost 1 year ago launched my own business called FeelLinks, which
awesome.
Includes, yes, I know, 1 year at the end of this month, a social emotional kind of resources for children, which includes a feelings journal and some feeling emotion dolls. And my passion and focus is really on educating families, educating our community on what is emotional intelligence and why is that knowledge really important for us and for our children to be, lifelong, healthy, coping people. So that's my passion and that's what I do. And I'm excited to always talk to you, Jerry. So.
We have so much fun.
We do.
Yeah, Parenting Upstream just started because Marcel and I were hanging out and we had conversations like this and we were like, hey, let's record them and see what we could do. And so
we already talked for a half hour before we started this.
Really, we completely just covered all the topics. And now, so we decided at the end of our last one to talk about self-care and look at the reality of parenting and youth engagement and just acknowledging some of those difficulties without, the added stressors of a pandemic. And so we had the opportunity to kind of think over the month about, what that means, what that looks like. We've had conversations. I had the fortunate opportunity to be a stay-at-home parent when my now 16-year-old at Issaquah High School was born, and it is so overwhelming at times, and again we weren't in the midst of a pandemic, and so we wanted to talk a little bit about just the reality of that and acknowledging that, especially I think with social media, it's you have to look and be and act like the ultimate parent on a consistent basis, and I kind of gave up on that very very soon. It's like I would like to be a real parent, and it's not perfect all the time, and it shouldn't be. I'm so comforted by the fact that I've probably made amends and apologized to my child more than anybody in my life, because we make mistakes, we raise our voice, we get overwhelmed, and you don't see it on Instagram all that much, although you're starting to more consistently, right? The parents are just being kind of real and stuff. So it's just a great topic. Thanks for joining today. And I was going to
say to that, I wrote actually a blog on my website about, taking time to apologize and recognize our missteps with our own children and how, we're human. And that is such an amazing way for our children to see that we all make mistakes. And when I raise my voice or I say something that, I later decide I'm not comfortable with, or I did something in a way that I wish I did differently, that's really important. And I think that is, for me, that is self-care, right? Like telling my own child how much, I care for them and I made a mistake. It helps me to then be able to spring forward and on to the next, and
your soul.
It's that, so really important. There was something I really wanted to share because I read this and I feel like it's such a great driver of the conversation that we're having today. So
absolutely.
I'm going to read this. It says, the moment we realize that how we react to our kids' behavior has more to do with how we are feeling than what our kids are doing is the moment we understand that our main job as parents must be to keep ourselves emotionally healthy. So to me, what this really means is, our kids are going to have those emotions. They're supposed to, right? We are too, but how do we react and what do we do to that? And if we are caring for ourselves somewhere in the midst of all of that and taking the time for whatever that is, which we can get into kind of what those might be, then we hopefully are coming at our children in a calmer manner. We are coming to our children maybe feeling healthier and happier because we've taken care of ourselves before walking into a situation that might be volatile or explosive or having behaviors that we're not happy about as a parent. But how do we make sure we're coming to that and responding to that instead of reacting to that in kind of in a way that we hope not to. So really just finding ways to take care of ourselves. And we're going to kind of talk about what are some of those ways to do that. But I just think that's such a great way to talk about how to be emotionally healthy in ourselves as parents so that we can then be the best we can be for our children.
Absolutely. It's the old adage of putting on your oxygen mask on the plane before you put on your child's, which, like you said, was scary and counterintuitive, but a reality. Like, you're taking care of yourself, you're just more capable of taking care of the little people around you. So it's super vital. The other thing that we really wanted to throw out a caveat is understanding that, I just acknowledging the levels of privilege that I have. I can access childcare. I can, I can go to the community center and use the facility. I have access to resources that not everybody does. And so we really want to think about it from a standpoint of care that doesn't require a lot of outside interventions, walking, running, things that are universally accessible to folks, because we should. There is no reason, right?
Yes.
It just should be that way.
Absolutely. And I think, for me, I made my word of intent for this year, and it's balance. And the reason I need that is because I find myself, putting too much time into work, or I'm too much into work, which means I'm too much on my social media because that's one way that I do my work, or balancing some alone time with family time or husband time. For me, that's my partner, finding alone time with my partner and not always being around the children, or so balance for me was my word, because that's self-care that I need to work on for me. And part of that is I am setting my alarm to get up before everybody else to just be. I can have a hot cup of coffee, sit, look out the window, whatever it is. And to me, those are kind of like, that's, kind of a universal thing to just be able to like sit with yourself, and whatever that looks like for you, or it's, taking time to write down how you're feeling, or journal, or whatever that looks like. But for me, it's balance. And so my self-care this year is balance. And that's in a whole lot of different places in my life, but that was my kind of word for 2022.
Yeah, it's important. I'm thinking about just going immediately remote. In my house, we were all here all the time. And it's not a gigantic living space. It's super wonderful. But we realized that we had spent like a year and a half always next to each other. And we're fortunate that that is extremely comfortable, but also acknowledging that, every time you turn around, it's like, oh, look, there you are, right?
Right.
So, trying to figure out how to carve out that personal time. I love the idea of journaling. There is so much therapeutic value in journaling. I was taught early on that there's a lot of distance between up here and the end of your hand. And so when you get things out, it's cathartic, it lets things go. Yeah, and just that quiet meditation. I consistently attempt to try meditation, and I will get into good grooves. And then all of a sudden I realized that it hasn't happened in a long time, but just that quiet capabilities. Hopefully everybody has access to 5 or 10 minutes. That's really a valuable opportunity, and it can be in the car, it can be anywhere that you're just shutting off for a little bit and focusing on you and your breath and things that are going on around you instead of everything. I remember when I was jotting down some notes thinking about the inability we have often, especially as parents, to not stay in the moment that we're in. And I thought when my little one was little, I did that a lot more, right? Oh, what do you do? We're sitting here with blocks. This is fabulous. We can do this for a while. But now as they're older, it's like, all of these other things, appointments and doctors and all, and getting back to a place where I'm in the moment. Because when you think about it, there are two unbelievably stressful places: the past, which you have no control of changing, and the future, right? Which you have no ability, except the work that you're doing, to impact. And so staying in the moment is really valuable, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to add to that too. I think that I am a parent of a little bit younger than your child at this moment, but we were talking about how this time seems to move, kind of like some days feel really long, but in the scheme of things, like it's quick, right? It goes. And so just relishing in that time that you do have and enjoying those moments with your kiddos when you can, but knowing, like we said, like taking that time. For me, when we drive in the car, that's my, like, if I'm with the kids, I feel like it's the look out the window, it's taking my breaths, doing my thing. And a lot of times they're quiet in the car too, just looking out the window. And other times it's big conversations. But I think those are opportunities that we can just grab onto if we're not good at finding that alone time, like in our homes, for whatever reason that doesn't work, or we're trying to make a habit of doing something that's new for us. Sometimes that's hard, right? So if it's journaling, or if it's meditating, or if it's just taking those breaths and spending 2 minutes, or if you have the capability for some sort of app that helps that along too. So there's tools out there also that can be helpful, but making a plan for yourself and creating something new or creating a new habit can be really hard. So also don't be hard on yourself, right? If it's something you want to give it a try, then give it a try. But it doesn't mean, like you said, finding that time to meditate or be alone sometimes can be hard to stick with. And so try different things, because that might not be the thing that actually works either.
Yeah. The other thing that I was thinking about in terms of just this broader idea is really knowing and ultimately respecting your own limits. Again, there's a huge false narrative that we have to be super people all of the time. And that really does lead to consequences in terms of our parenting and our relationships with everybody around us. When we're at that edge and the rubber band is so wound up, how could you expect to be at your best? And so really being able to acknowledge, I remember when my 6-year-old was a little younger, and unbelievable amounts of energy this human has. And I would just get to a place and I would just let him know, I'm going to go outside in front of the house and I'm going to walk up and down the sidewalk for a little bit. And he could always see me out the windows, but it's just like I have, working in behavioral health, I've worked in residential hospitals for substance use disorders with teens. Like I have a significant level of patience. And none of that was,
yes. I was always told, oh, you're a preschool or you're a kindergarten teacher, you're
Yeah.
just the best mom. And it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you can have all the background in education, but
Yeah.
you still are a human being
Yeah, they're
that
two
can only
different things.
take so much of that,
Yep.
pressure
Yeah.
and the constant. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The sweater, the counseling and teacher sweater falls off at the door, and
Yes.
you're just like
Yes.
a parent. And so,
Parent.
yeah, I think that that's kind of important. And the other thing that went with that for me was asking for help. It can be difficult. And again, our community and our society really doesn't necessarily advocate all that well for people being communal, but cultures have been doing that forever. And so taking advantage of any help that you can get, and maybe we can kind of brainstorm some mechanisms for people who don't necessarily have all of those resources, that, a community play opportunity where parents can then take some time for themselves.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have a lot of
I
cost.
recently was out just east of here doing a little pop-up shop for the holidays, and there was this great place they created, for kids to go for a couple of hours. And so the parents can have a little bit of time, or the caretakers could have a little bit of time, whether it was to like just go grocery shopping on your own,
Right.
and like you said, yes, there are some privileges involved in that. But I also think that some of those community places are very giving as well. And I do know that about this particular place.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I think that there's also such greatness in neighbors. And, I know just being supportive if someone is not well, or, is sick, or just being there to say, hey, you want to go to the grocery store? I'm happy to take your child or your children for a couple of hours.
Sure.
And sometimes it's just being the friend to someone who, you might notice needs something.
Exactly.
So I think just stretching our arms out to those around us too is super important. And, I think also what I want to say is that self-care for our own children is really important too. That, I have a child who is like, she journals everything. That is her every single night.
It's completely shocking that
every single night she's journaling, and that's her, and she needs alone time, and she knows that. And so as her parent, like, I can also be aware of like, okay, we're done, and it's time for you to have your time, and whatever that looks like. If it's friends over, if it had been a sleepover, if it's just a long day and we've had softball or whatever, it's like, okay, go take your hot shower and go have your time, And then I have another child who he is wanting to always be around and have conversation and be hands-on with things and talk and communicate. And then with him, it's more of like, okay, I know that you don't want to have time by yourself, but I know that that is something that would be really good for you. So go shoot hoops in your room, go outside, go hop on your scooter, whatever it is. But knowing our children and knowing what they need too is really important. And I think that we need to advocate, especially when they're young, what that looks like, and kind of help them figure out what their needs are too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which can help the whole household.
Yeah, and having them be able to watch that and see it mirrored and playing out in front of them, and the value of that, and just having honest conversations regarding that that's super important. Any other tricks that you can think of that help in terms of self-care? I was certainly thinking about nutrition and exercise, and really all of the stuff just to be good sleep hygiene. We just had a doctor's appointment, and our pediatrician was talking about sleep hygiene, and I just watched my child like, you say that one more time.
Right? I know, right? I know. Well, it's interesting because my daughter is getting, a little bit older, where she's in middle school, and, their kind of rhythm of sleep kind of changes a bit. But like I said, she's in her room, it's quiet, she's reading, she's journaling. And to me, that is the downtime. Exactly. And then she goes to sleep still at a reasonable time, but we get in bed at a reasonable time. We stick to those routines. And to me, if we don't stick to those routines in our home, it is that's bad self-care.
Yeah, it just gets
for all of us. So yeah, I mean, it's fun when there's flexibility and other things are kind of coming up, but overall we're pretty, we kind of stick to that, and kids are getting ready for bed, and we, we'll read, tuck in, do our things, say goodnight, and then it's quiet time, and whatever that looks like for them is okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, sleep is really important. And I think as parents and caretakers, that might be our only time when our children are sleeping sometimes that we have that alone time. And so I find sometimes it's harder for me to go to sleep because I'm thinking, okay, this is my time. I'm not working. I'm not, this is my time with my partner. And then, oh gosh, I got to go to bed because I got to wake up and have that quiet time in the morning by myself. So
There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a cycle there. But I do think that it is, we know sleep is so important, and, getting in good nutrition and, trying to stick to those important things for our health and our well-being, mentally, physically, emotionally. Those are all really important.
Yeah, there's a wonderful acronym that you hear in recovery all the time, which is HALT. You never want to be too hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, because they're really high risk circumstances for strategies to compensate that aren't necessarily all that healthy and don't afford us all those great outcomes. So
yeah. Well, and I was just reading something about loneliness and how, especially right now, there's kind of that's heightened a lot for us because we might not be having those in-person contacts, but there's different groups or activities of things, like if maybe, you're in a new place, or you're in a new, you've moved, and you're trying to look for something to find your people. I mean, we met in a, business group in our community online, so in the strangest places you could find, some really great connections. And so whatever you might find interesting, search out what those things look like in your own community, or at this point, even online from afar,
Absolutely.
So just finding your people and connections can be really hard. So
absolutely. I always encourage the counselors that I work with to give their supports permission to intervene, because sometimes we're kind of leery. It looks like Marcelle's like kind of running herself a little bit too much, and people are like, well, that's none of my business. It is. It's all of our business, right?
Yeah.
Like, so letting folks know that they have permission to talk to me and say, are you okay? Like, what's going on?
Right.
Can I help? Can I support you? With my friends, they would just yell because that's how we roll. But so yeah.
Well, I've had to, with that whole idea of balance, I mean, it's hard for me to say no to things that I care about. And so I read this, and I now live this, like the yeses will be that much more special and important to me if I say no to the things that might not be the right thing right now.
Yeah.
And that's another piece of caring for ourselves, is making sure that we're not overstretching what we can do. We are not superhuman as much as we hope to be, or want to be, or think that we should be. Yeah. We're not. We're human beings, and our bodies and our, they're telling us, what it is that we should be doing. I'll share a quick personal note for myself, but when I was 23, I had a stroke, and I don't know if I've even shared that with you, but so balance for me comes in many places. But I'll tell you, my mom will notice when I am like tired and it's too much, because the side that I had my stroke on will show.
Wow.
And it's been 18 years now. But, I went through a lot of therapy and things to get back my left side of my body. And, so for me, balance has to come because I need to physically be okay as well. So also I use bar exercise, and that has given me not only balance in my head, but also for my body.
Nice.
So just a really, interesting take on, I can tell and my mother can tell. It was like nobody else can, but she's like, okay, it's time for you to take some time and relax and no work, no nothing, just you need to sleep, you need to rest. So
Just gotta decide.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
good for mom.
Yeah, I know. I'm very lucky.
That's awesome. Very cool.
So
Nice. Well, yeah,
we are we going to tell everyone what we're going to do next time on here?
Yeah, I thought that was a good idea. It's an interesting idea to actually talk about because people don't. They just think it lives somewhere, right? And so we don't know what we're going to talk about, but yeah, it should be fun. Good.
Yeah. All right.
Are you going to tell them?
Oh, you want me to tell?
Sure.
Okay, we're going to talk about love.
We're going to talk about love.
We thought it would be kind of a, fun thing to do for February. So
for Valentine's Day, and kind of talk about that in a meaningful fashion, right? What's involved in the realities of those intimate relationships and how they continue and can be encouraged and fostered and what it really means, right? Yeah, I've always throw out to some of my students the idea of unconditional love, because we love to throw that out pretty consistently, but unconditional love only happens in unbelievable amounts of adversity, right? You don't see it elsewhere, right? Oh. Like you can go to somebody and say, like, I love you unconditionally, right? Until this bomb drops.
What does that actually mean when Yep.
Exactly. So it should be an interesting conversation. So please don't forget to join us next time. Visit our social media platforms. If you have any comments, leave them so that we can add to our repertoire in terms of topics and stuff, and have a great rest of your and Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Yeah, and find your self-care.
Find your self-care. It's important, right? Go buy storage things at Fred Meyer. That's always a New Year's thing, right? All the holiday stuff is gone, and they just have containers to put things in. Right?
I'm all good. I love organizing.
You know what? That doesn't shock me in the slightest. That's awesome. Okay, everybody, take care.
Thank you. Bye.